Okay, so this room here is a living room, bedroom, dining hall. It's the same thing actually, by the way. So that's why I think it's like that. Normally all the living rooms are up there, but this is an expansion of here. So the entrance, as you see, is lower than the rest one. Because when you get into a room where you are sleeping, you want the door, whatever it is, outside. That's why it is over lower than us. Even today, in traditional houses, the entrance is lower than the rest part. So we don't get into the house with the shoes. We take the shoes off, get like that one. That's the reason here. And here you can see a tub. So that's a place that are washing the dishes, the hands, or if you can bath here, you can pour the water out here. So, next question. Where are the washrooms? Where are the toilets? That's the main question. Traditionally, the toilets were never constructed in the house. There's always a small cabin outside in the garden or somewhere. So these wooden cabins are used as a toilet. It's not only here actually, even historically. Until, let's say, 18th century, there were no toilets, neither in palaces. For example, Versailles Palace in France is a wonderful palace. There's no toilet there. So what people use is they use different cups, like terracotta pots or copper cups for these purposes. Except one thing, except latrina. Have you heard about? Latrina means public toilet. In Roman cities, there are latrinas, public toilets, which they use. So latrina is a basic example for nowadays modern toilets, which is a kind of sitting place, that much wide, and there are some holes here, and no barriers in between, so people were sitting next to each other. And it was said, when you look at the architecture, you can see that there is a pool in the middle, and there are places sometimes musicians was making even music, and the slaves were standing here with a stick in their hand and sponge in the middle. So if cleaning needed, the slaves are providing the cleaning service here. Another interesting thing is about the latrina, that it was not determined only for men or women, mixed. So men and women may have used those places together. And latrinas were very popular in Roman era. When you go to Ephesus, for example, or Hierapolis in Turkey, you can see those places. So political chattings, for example, negotiations, meeting took place in those latrinas. So latrinas are one of those interesting places in the Roman era. Let's go. In the past, but until 19th century, even palaces had no toilets. There are water sources in every place, water spring sources. It's not right now, but there are many. So they are transported. Not an irrigation system carries them to their house. So here you can see another oven. But when I look into the oven, I can see that there are some bricks. These are fire bricks, you see? So that's a different oven, which they make bread by slapping in India, in Turkey, many places, maybe in Italy as well. So they heat it, and then just by slapping the bread, they make the bread. This is called çörek. That's another type of bread, which is like that much big, and you have to consume it fresh. That's one of those places they make it. And this is interesting. Here, from the architectural details of them, I personally assume this must be a small chapel, because the Orthodox families organize part of their house as a small chapel so that they can pray. And that must be the private chapel of the household. If this facility here, this is the altar part where they kneel and pray, and that's a kind of small chapel one. It shouldn't be used at the same time. Maybe once it was a chapel, later it was converted into a kitchen. But that's it. So let's continue here. So from those holes, you can see here, we can can assume that these are feeding places. You see, for animals again. So that's a stable for sheep, cow, cattle, horse. Here you can see similar hole, like the first room, used as a fridge to store food. This is a winery again, a pool. There's a hole which leaks out, and that's a wine cellar. So winery, wine cellar, storage, stable. Do you think they are only in ones? Not very much. I mean, you cannot make wine when there are animals in it. So imagine that, consider that these places are about 1,000 years old. Once, maybe it was used as a kitchen. Later, the local people start to use it as a stable. So not all time. And this here is an example of those air ventilation tunnels. Here you see. So there is a room up there. There was a wooden ladder here. So they were climbing up from here to the upper part. So we have seen outside, remember, many of them, part of them. That's an example of this. Okay? So now we have one more room left. Let's wait. One more room. Let's get in here and see what's here. Okay, dear guests. So if you look around, you can see again the holes. They must have tied the animals, and that's a feeding place. Here you can see another one. You see, it's very similar. And the carvings are very primitive, very simple, very rough. So this is a simple, small stable where they must have kept their animals in them. Is there anything else interesting? There is. Good to know. Shall we get down? Let's go. Mind your head because it's a bit low here. So it's an exploration. Yeah. Guys, when you get in, you can see a much wider, bigger room. And when you look to the wall, you can see that the carvings are much fine, much precise than the other one. And there's a curve with some red paints. Do you remember the red paint in the chapel?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. That means this is also a chapel. So a chapel hidden like this. So probably when you look in, you can see there are more rooms here. And this place was much bigger, much higher, but the water shielded up the bottom part. So this place were used for confessions because confession chapels are hidden. You don't want anybody to hear you. Or maybe grave chapel at the same time because there are some graveyards in here. So maybe someone very respected was buried here, and the time they were coming here and to pray. So that means I personally assume this must be a kind of shrine. Shrine is a place where very like saint or high religious respected people were buried, and other people were coming there to pray to God for them actually, and getting help for them actually, even from those places. So that must be a kind of hidden shrine used here actually. But unfortunately, and interestingly, they hide the entrance, you see. The entrance is very basic. So that's another reason. So the person must be a special one so that they hide the entrance, kept it just primitive. But this place is much prior here. Okay? So let's get out of this place.